Hi again. On June the 30th, 2016, the UN Human Rights Council passed a resolution which gave a mandate to create basically what is a watchdog, an independent expert who will monitor countries for their approach to discrimination on gender identity and sexual orientation. The expert will be consulting with and working with states over a period of time to kind of support the work they're doing in fighting discrimination, and will also be able to kind of do a report on an annual basis to the UN. The vote was pretty tight. There was 23 countries in favour, there was 18 against and 6 abstentions. So it's definitely a step forward, quite a positive step forward, but there are things we need to consider when we think about what this actually means for equality. So let's look at a couple of countries that abstained on the vote. South Africa has actually been quite a progressive voice on this issue in the past. They actively supported a similar resolution back in 2011, and in spite of international and domestic pressure on them, on this occasion they voted to abstain. The South African government's, the view they seem to have given is to say that LGBT rights shouldn't be seen as something that's exceptional and that's dealt with individually and separate from the rest of human rights, that actually they should work in coalition and collaboration with other human rights activists. The truth of it is, that doesn't work. We have numerous examples in the past where you try and add in LGBT issues to human rights issues, they get sidelined or not taken seriously. India also abstained, to the disappointment of queer activists back home. It's sad, but it shouldn't be too surprising. In the first 2 years of Narendra Modi's government, they haven't voted in favour, the Indian government, of any kind of UN provisions that are pro-LGBT. The Orlando shootings, the Indian government didn't acknowledge the sexuality of many of the victims. And if you look at the debate for this resolution in a bit of detail, we can see that on 2 occasions, although they abstained on the resolution as a whole, they actively voted in favour of amendments that would minimise the scope and mandate of the independent expert. That said, the politics of this are a little bit more nuanced than just progressives versus homophobes. About a month before the resolution, back in May, the Coalition of African Lesbians came out against the idea of an independent expert. They kind of argued that it doesn't look sufficiently at the root causes of sexual and gender discrimination, or particularly at the intersecting linkages between different sorts of discrimination that have the impact on each other, such as around race, class, disability. In my research experience and in my activist experience, there's actually some truth to that. There is a tendency to, when you're in the middle of a political campaign, to really focus on how it affects you and those who are kind of close around you, and not really look at the larger implications of what you're working on. So what does this look like in practice moving forward? I think because there was a slim majority in favour of the setting up the independent expert, it's likely to be challenged quite robustly by those countries whose queer communities probably need it more than anybody else. Also, on a personal note, as someone that believes that advocacy and activism should really be decided and owned by the communities that are affected by it, it runs the risk of actually appearing like we're dictating from above. Finally, we can't underestimate how important this is. Previously, if you want to talk about LGBT issues in UN spaces, generally they were tacked on to more important conversations that were taking place. It's now actually a topic of conversation in its own right that will get more airtime and take it more seriously. It's too early to say really at this stage what the impact will have for grassroots communities though, away from the debating chambers of New York. I think we should welcome this development, but let's not lose sight of the fact that this is important, but it goes hand in hand in supporting the dangerous and frankly inspiring work that people do on a day-to-day basis fighting homophobia in their countries.